Hey guys, how's it going? It's Calvin Raab. So if you're an economics or finance nerd like me, then you would know that right now is a crazy time in kind of the economic financial world, and that is because of coronavirus. There are governments trying to pass trillion-dollar bills to help out millions and millions of unemployed people. Unemployment figures are going through the roof. No one really knows what's going to happen. Governments are trying to compensate with very low interest rates, and there's a lot going on. It is a crazy time to be following all this. And in this video, I wanted to talk about the stock market. And although there's a lot of negatives, a lot of people's net worths have been hit very substantially due to the drop in the market that we've seen. Historic numbers as far as drops go, if you look at the stock market historically and look at some of the biggest drops that have ever happened, single day drops, you would see that in the past month, I think there's 2 days we had that are in the top 10 as far as percentage drops, and of course, because of the time we live in, as far as the total value drop, you can't really beat it, but that's kind of a bad metric because there's just so much more money in the world today than there was, say, during like the Great Depression or anything like that. So I want to talk about stocks that are doing well. There's a lot of negativity and a lot of people are losing money. I want to flip the script and talk about stocks that are doing well. And what I did is I looked at the entire S&P 500 and I looked at it for the entire period up to now that coronavirus has been going on. So the stock market was hitting market highs around February 19th. And then right after that, the next business trading day is when things started to take a tumble. And ever since then, it's been a little bit in free fall with a few crazy volatile jumps and everything like that. Stock market's been crazy. But there have been a few stocks that since then have gone up. And in the entire S&P 500, at least from last I checked, there were only 4 stocks that were up since that day on February 19th, have only gone up there. So I'm going to go over those 4, and then after that I'm going to go over a few different stocks that you may not know about that either are benefiting from this, so companies that are doing well during coronavirus, or different inverses and different things like that that you may want to look at as well. So I'm going to go over those. This will be a fairly quick video just to kind of get your mind open that even during these falling markets, there are companies and stocks that are doing well. And if you have any other ideas, please let me know in the comments below, because there's a lot of other companies and sectors that are doing well as well. And I'll also have a pinned comment to different parts of this video if you just want to jump to those stocks, because I understand your time is very valuable. And if you're new here, my name's Calvin Raab. I make videos all about personal finance and jobs and different things like that. So if you're interested in anything like that, I would love it if you would subscribe. The first stock is Clorox Company, and their ticker symbol is CLX. And when you think of Clorox, usually I think most people would think of the cleaning supplies and different things like that. And because of this whole coronavirus, you can understand why they are doing quite well, because people are stocking up on cleaning supplies and different things like that. And a lot of cleaning supplies are hard to find. I made a video about how to find cleaning supplies though, so I recommend checking that out as well. I will link to it in the description, and you can just click up there and you'll be able to see it as well. But this company is up 8.06% in the past, kind of during this coronavirus period. While everyone has taken a tumble, you can see they've jumped 8%, which is a very big number. And Clorox, if you really look at their business, you will see that they are so much more than just kind of, when you think of Clorox, maybe Clorox wipes or cleaning and anything like that. They own a lot of other companies that you may think are separated from them, but it's a huge company. It's bigger than I ever expected. So they're a fascinating company to study as well, but they are up in the time of this coronavirus pandemic. Stock number 2 is Kroger Company, and their ticker symbol is KR, and this is the US's largest supermarket. So here in Southern California, we don't have any exact Kroger supermarkets. I see them more when I go visit family in the Midwest, and I have family all over kind of different parts of the country, and I've been to these supermarkets. However, here in Southern California, we don't have them specifically, at least from what I've seen around me. Maybe I just have been ignorant, haven't seen them yet, but from what I know, there isn't one that close to where I live. But they are the US's largest supermarket, and they are up 6.68%. And this makes sense as well. Grocery stores have been making quite a bit of money because a lot of people are now having to go to the grocery stores. They're trying to stock up, and if you go to the grocery stores, they're having trouble filling the shelves oftentimes. So grocery stores now, because of this new flood of people, they're now having to hire new people, and business is doing pretty well for them, although it is a little tricky because you're trying to restock the correct amount, and it's just a tough time to be running that business. However, they are doing pretty well, and you can see that because of that stock gain, while everyone else is tumbling, grocery stores are doing pretty well. Specifically, Kroger, the supermarket, is doing very well. The third stock is Regeneron Pharmaceuticals Incorporated, and their ticker symbol is REGN, and I apologize if I'm pronouncing that name wrong. But essentially, this is a biopharmaceutical company, and when I was doing a little bit of research on them, trying to figure out why exactly they had made that jump of almost 10%, I believe it is 9.85% growth during this pandemic, while everyone else was taking a tumble, and that's because they've just focused a lot of their attention on the coronavirus, and I think just being a biopharmaceutical company, focusing on that, of course, a lot of people are putting their money in, thinking that, oh, what if they're the one that finds the cure? But oftentimes, just because their research is in the right place, of course, just during this time period, there is a chance that either they find the cure or just find some way to mitigate it because they are researching it, and just a lot of money is going towards them. A lot of money is being directed towards the coronavirus in that company, and they are rewarded with a lot of investors believing in them and investing their money in them, and that has shot their stock up about 9.85% in the past, I believe it's kind of looking back about a month, a little bit more than a month, and that looks at how much they have gained. I believe it was a month was the span at which I looked at. Stock number 4 is in that same boat with Gilead Systems, and their ticker symbol is GILD, and they are also up under 10%, just under 10% at 9.34%. And they are kind of in that same boat of biopharmaceutical company that has directed their attention and a lot of their resources towards the coronavirus. And I think because it is such a hot topic, a lot of investors are flooding to that, because I think a lot of investors are thinking that biopharmaceutical companies, whoever either figures out the cure, is going to do quite well. And even if you just focus on the research there, because that is the most pressing issue right here. And if your company is focusing on the most pressing issue in the world today, or at least one of them on a global scale, I understand there are much bigger issues out there than coronavirus. However, it is something that is a main focal point for a lot of countries, and they're being rewarded with their stock being shot up, and that's just a product of them focusing their money on that. All right, so now I'm flipping it and talking about a little bit different type of stocks. So I was just talking about 4 stocks were in the S&P 500. I felt that I wanted to cover the S&P 500 because that is kind of the benchmark the United States runs on, and the most important companies in the United States when it comes to the stock market mostly fall within the S&P 500. But I now want to flip it over to a few stocks that are not in there. However, they are doing very well during this time period, and I'll explain a little bit as it is to why. The first one is Zoom, ticker symbol ZM, and Zoom is the company that so many people have migrated to. Now that so many people are now working virtually and working remotely, Zoom is what is tying everyone together. So I see this from my perspective. I go to UCLA, and the remainder of my year is now going to be completely remote, and we are using Zoom. So I have to use Zoom to check into my lectures and different things like that, and Zoom is really the most popular one that everyone moves to. I actually haven't heard really a different service that a different university is using, but I know a lot of people from different universities. UCLA has about 40,000 students at it, and everyone's now using Zoom. There are other big universities that are doing it. My friend that goes to Berkeley is using it. My friend that goes to Notre Dame, San Diego State is using it, and there's always that joke about we all now go to Zoom University. So I don't know, it's kind of funny. But they've shot up about 28% since then, and they've been doing really well. And I do quite like their services. I had a Zoom lecture the other day, and I was pretty impressed with it. Stock number 6 is TVIX, which is up 1,548% since February 19th when the market was hitting highs. And TVIX is a stock that's kind of interesting. It tracks the futures on the S&P 500 at a 200% leverage on the S&P's volatility. So that may seem kind of complex, and I understand that it is. Just know that all it's doing is it's tracking the futures contracts on the S&P 500, and whenever the economy does really, really bad, this thing shoots up. So I wouldn't recommend going and saying, oh, that went up 1,500%, and throwing your money in there, because know that the economy will bounce back and this will do quite poorly. I mean, look at TVX and look how it's done the past 6-7 years. While the economy's been booming, it's just been going. But that's just because it is a very, very leveraged inverse of the stock market, is how you can kind of think of it as. But it is important to know that there are stocks out there that are like this. They just are now inverses. So when the stock market is doing good, there are stocks for that. And when the stock market is doing bad, you can benefit from that as well through a lot of these inverse stocks. Although me personally, I don't really like to don't like to bet against the market, even in situations like this. But for some people that understand this game, you can. Stock number 7 is SQQQ. So SQQ, if you're familiar with leverage stocks, you've probably heard of it before. Its inverse is TQQQ. Did I get that right? TQQQ. There's 3 Qs. And essentially what this does is it is a 3 times leveraged stock that's going against the S&P 500. I believe that is the index that it is tracking. So if the S&P goes down 1%, I believe then being 3 times leverage, it would go down 3%. Although there's a little bit that goes into that, in that a lot of these leverage stocks have to be rebalanced at different times, so the percentages may be a little bit differently. But you can just think of it as when the stock market does poorly, SQQQ does very, very well, and it's the same as TVIX, just not quite as crazy. I always think of it on very simplistic terms. Think of TVIX as SQQQ on steroids and different things like that. So SQQ is something that I'll usually look at when it comes to TQQ. I like to look at both of them, and you can kind of compare and see how, if you were to invest in SQQ and the market's doing poorly, TQQ when it's doing well, you can have a great return. However, just know that there are different fees and different things like that with a lot of leverage stocks. And personally, I don't really get involved with SQQQ because I'm not one to bet against the market, as I said. But there are inverses out there that are doing really, really well because the economy is not doing very well, and at least the stock market is not doing very well. All right, so that will wrap it up. And when I was doing research for this video, I was trying to find a lot of stocks that have done really well, and there are a lot of them. You will find stocks that you've never really heard of, small little companies that have somehow benefited from this whole coronavirus pandemic and have shot up. And I really don't want you to go and find those and just throw your money into it. As always, when it comes to investing, you don't want to invest blindly and just throw your money into something because it has done well historically. A lot of those stocks that have shot up are very volatile and very hard to measure, very hard to track, and never invest in something you don't understand. I believe it was Warren Buffett that kind of said that. But this is a crazy time, and it is important to know that in any market, there are stocks that will do well. So if you are someone that is very interested in the stock market, you can do research into it, find these companies, and do well in periods when others are doing poorly. This is something that I've made more videos about previously. You can check videos I've made about how to do well during a recession, or stocks that do well during a recession. I recommend checking that video out, and I go a little bit deeper on specific stocks and companies to look at during a recession. Coronavirus is kind of an interesting case study that could lead to a recession that has just absolutely killed the economy, and it's just something that is really interesting to look at. And I also understand that it being interesting also leads to a lot of hurt and a lot of suffering, because a lot of people are hurt financially with unemployment and different things like that. But I'm hoping that you now kind of see that some stocks do well, and if you really want to do your research, you can find those. So in this video, I just went over 7. I just went over 4 stocks in the S&P 500, 3 other stocks, 2 inverses, and then Zoom. The key here, when you want to think of stocks that are doing well during this period, is just think of, all right, we have the coronavirus pandemic. Who's doing well? Which companies are benefiting from this pandemic? And oftentimes, if they are benefiting, they're getting new customers or anything like that, their stock is probably doing pretty well as well. So just think of it in terms of that. But these were 7. I'm sure there are more. I would love it if you would let me know in the comments below if there are any other big stocks, maybe something you didn't expect, or stock that has done very, very well since this recession, or not this recession, but since this coronavirus pandemic, and you just let me know in the comments below. I look forward to going through there, talking to you guys, and maybe you'll have a few stocks that either I didn't know about or someone else that's watching this video doesn't know about, so I look forward to going through that. But thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. If you're new here, my name is Calvin Raab, and I make videos all about personal finance and economics and jobs. So if you're interested in anything like that at all, I would love it if you would subscribe. But that will wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, my name is Calvin Raab, and I'll see you soon. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Congratulations. So I'm going to move to the corner of your screen here. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, you are going to see my most recent video. And if you look in the lower left-hand corner, you're going to see a video that YouTube and I each think that you would like. And if you haven't yet, you can hit my face right here and subscribe. As always, my name is Calvin Raab, and I'll see you soon.